So, hello friends, I'm Dr. G.K. Goswami, and you are welcome to our show, Dr. G.K. Goswami IPS. Today, you will be surprised to meet one very globally recognized person who is known for his expertise in DNA in various manner, whether dealing with the human trafficking, especially the child trafficking, then various domain of genetic disease, and so many other credit goes to his kitty. So welcome to our show, Professor Jose. Thank you very much
Hello.
for joining us.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure, my privilege. Thank you.
Thank you once again. So, friends, today we are going to discuss various nuances of the vast experience of Professor Jose. Let me just introduce him, although he has no uh, recognition issue, he's very well recognized globally. Professor Jose is full professor of legal and forensic medicine in the University of Grenada. He is the founding director of DNA-Prokids since 2004. He is also scientific director of Phoenix program of Spain for missing persons genetic identification and all. He is the director of Genome for Genomics and Oncology. He published more than 180 articles, and you will surprise that his H index is 40. It's a very surprising, and I congratulate you, Professor Jose, for this extraordinary achievement. He is an avid speaker who visited over 35 countries across this time, and he is involved in research activities in various domains, particularly in human genetic identification for tracing the missing persons, cardiac sudden death, oncology, liquid biopsy, circular tumor cells, and the list is endless. As I told, that his experience is very vast. Right from his education, he's a trained medical expert. He did his MD long back, around 40 years back, and then he did his PhD in forensic science and medicinal chemistry and other subject, forensic medicine. Having said that, today we are discussing about human trafficking in general and particularly the child trafficking because his experience is very vast. But I will certainly ask certain questions about the health issues, how genetic disease, particularly using DNA and other markers, how this new technology, the genetic engineering, can help to bring better healthcare at the global platform. Friends, in my opinion, poverty and ignorance are twin parents of human trafficking. Most of the time, it is the poverty who basically propel a person, whether a child or maybe the adult, into the human trafficking. Nearly 40% of the trafficked people, they were being brought to this menace because of their family members. They may be relatives. 14% were their intimate partners who thrown them to this very inhuman trade. Then 11% were friend, meaning thereby more than 65% of people, including children, they are being dragged into this human trafficking business by their known people. This is the biggest problem. So the enemy lies around us only. If we see its dynamics of how other people control a trafficked person, so nearly 24% are by psychological control and especially by allurement. Maybe they show you a kind of very bright future, and sometimes the poverty, the ill treatment with the children, that also compel a person to go out, and that advantage of the vicious environment sometime in the family also drag the children or even the adolescent or even the adult person to get allured, to get psychologically controlled by the traffickers. 16% cases have been reported which by physical force they have been dragged into trafficking. 10% were sexual abuse. Earlier, in the initial stage, in the disguise of the love and all, they drag them into the confidence and then they traffic them. If we see the gender issue, nearly 66% are female who get suffered with the trafficking business. These trafficked persons, including the children, the adult, they are being sexually exploited. Their exploitation may be for the labor purpose, for begging, domestic service, even the organ transplant. And I think all kind of exploitation are possible. So human trafficking is, my dear friends, is a bundle of crime. You tell the name, and as a police officer, I'm telling not only as an academician, but I have seen with my own experience that people have very miserable conditions. Missing persons and trafficking persons, they have interlinkages. Many a times the police report them as missing person, but let me tell you that majority of them have been trafficked, especially child. Missing is a disguise actually sometimes. So these are some complications and intricate issues, which of course, with the vast experience of Professor Jose, we are going to explore the remedies, and his vast experience in about 35 plus countries, which he has rolled out DNA-Prokid, which is his brainchild, was initiated in year 2004. So, having said that, Professor Jose, let me just begin with very small, queries. What are the dynamics of child trafficking globally? Because you have seen across globe in various countries, and you have dealt it not only theoretically but in practice. You have brought more than 4,000 child to their home. So this is a very, very heartening, achievement. And I can imagine I had occasion to meet, to recover people of this kind, and I can see the glow in the eyes of the family, in the eyes of the child or the person who had been trafficked. So I think 4,000 people you have revert them back to their family. So I really congratulate you and I really salute you for this extraordinary achievement. So, what are the dynamics? Just explain, sir. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for your introduction and for all that data that you were giving to the audience. It is very important to be aware and to know the problem that we are facing all over the world. The dynamics of children trafficking varies pretty much. It depends on the region in the world. Sometimes depends also in on the situation of countries. For instance, we just had a terrible earthquake in Myanmar, and I am sure that this sad and tragic circumstance it's been used by human traffickers and by children traffickers to try to steal children from their families that could be affected. So it pretty much it depends on the situations, but it is the purpose is always the same. The children are used for many criminal activities,
Yes.
and they are victims, of course, from the very beginning because they cannot give you their clearance. They cannot give you their consent. It's not like adults that could be moved from one country to another country. Then you ask to the criminals that are transporting them from one place to the other place, and they tell, well, they are adults and they gave me their consent. They want to do that. It doesn't happen with children. Children are always victims, and they're used for any kind of exploitation. You were mentioning a number of them before: sexual exploitation, for begging, for labor, but also there are some situations where they're used for illegal adoptions. So the children are stolen and sold to people from the same country or from another country that pay a lot of money to buy them, and then someone just take the papers and all the documents and fake documents, and the child goes with the new family back to a different country, uh, and it seems that everything is legal because you have all the paperwork, all the documents correct, but the child has been stolen, and his family, her family, is desperately looking for him or for her, and she could be now, let's say, thousands of miles or kilometers away from their place. So in all of these situations, and children are victims, and it happens in many countries, not to say all of them. In many countries in Latin America, it happens in many countries in Africa, it happens in many countries in Asia. It also happens in less extent in other countries in Europe, and even in the US or Canada. So it's a global problem,
Yes.
and we have to first understand. We need to be aware. We have to know the data, the figures. We have to know the numbers, how many victims are there, and then create the strategy to fight this terrible, this heinous crime. First of all, fight the crime. But second, and very important, to prevent. We as scientists, we as criminologists, we as people related with forensic science, with the police activity, we have to think about solve the case, but we also have to think immediately and in parallel about preventing the crime. Once we know how they work, how criminals work, what they do, how they use, what are the advantages that they take, we have to be able to set measures that will prevent crimes to happen in the next future. Otherwise, we will be always solving cases, but we will not be able to prevent. And if we don't prevent, we will always have victims, and then the pain in the society will be forever.
Yeah, well said. And I just connect many of the examples which, as a senior police officer, I observed in the field. You rightly mentioned that the children and these trafficked children, they are being used as carrier of many contrabands. They may be drugs, they may be many other things. So from one place to another, the children are not being suspected, and sometime even if they are being caught by the police, probably they are not being treated the way the adult would have been. So there are so many means and causes by which the children are becoming target, and they are being thrown into all kind of exploitation, crime, and so on and so forth. So, with this fascinating journey, basically, Professor Jose, I am tempted to ask you a very personal question. And that is that what was the motivational factor for you to initiate and to enter into this field of, trafficking, especially for the children, and how you build up DNA-Prokid project. So this is one of very basic question I want to ask you.
Yeah, it's a good one. Um, I I've been traveling to many different countries for teaching, for training people in the basically police labs, police laboratories in all over the world, in Latin America, in Asia, sometimes in Africa. So it happened like at the very beginning of this century, let's say 2000, 2001. I was one day, I perfectly remember how the idea came to me. I was one day late in the evening walking in Peru, in the capital city of Peru, in Lima, with friends from the police officers, the police of Peru. We were walking, and then I could see it was really late in the evening, like 11 p.m. It was warm temperature. It was nice, the temperature, but I could see a lot of children hanging around and begging, and I asked them, okay, what about these children? What are they doing here? They don't have. They told me, okay, well, most of them they have families, and the parents are. They don't live too far from here, and the parents are aware. But they told me, but some of them we don't know who they are, and sometimes, of course, if they need something, we take them. We took them to orphanages. We took them to places where they could be protected, but we don't really know who they are. And then I said, okay, well, they don't know who they are because the children cannot tell who they are because they forgot, or they are very young and can barely speak. And they said, well, we have the children that nobody knows who they are, not even the children. I mean, they could have a name, of course, but they barely remember or don't remember at all, because they could have been missing when they were, even newborn or toddlers. So they forgot everything about their relatives. So we have children here whose family is not known. And on the other side, in any country, we have reports from relatives, mothers, parents in general, mothers, fathers, grandparents, of missing children. My baby girl, my baby boy is missing or has been stolen directly. They tell you, they report to the police. And then I say, okay, well, if we have children that are unidentified and are hanging around, and we have relatives of missing children that are looking for them, why don't we use DNA to create a database with the DNA of the children who are not identified, everything under the laws and the protection of the government, of course, or the police, or whoever the authority is in a given country. So having DNA from children who are not identified on one side, and then you have on the other side DNA from relatives looking for missing children. And then if you do that and you just cross and compare the database, cross all the data, you, of course, you will be able to find matches and to identify children. And then in most of the cases to return them to their families. And this could be done, of course, inside the country, or with collaboration between neighboring countries, usually neighboring countries, but could be done inside the country. And this is how the idea came. I remember it was in Peru, and then I started to think about how to get started, and then we did run a pilot program in Guatemala back in between 2004 and 2006, and it did work. And then after that, we've been working to be able to extend and have many more countries involved and using DNA to identify children and return them to their families. And this is very important. This is very important. All children must be identified. Uh, I know cases. I've been with relatives of children that, for instance, they were given for adoption, and the children were sent to a foreign country, very far from where they were living, or from where their families live. And the children were given for adoption because nobody knew who they were, and nobody was be able to realize that the relatives were looking for them. His parent or her parents were looking for the child. But you can easily imagine that in a beautiful and huge country as India, a child is missing in one city in the north, let's say Delhi, and the child shows up in Bombay, for instance, and then the parents are looking for the child in Delhi, but the child is in Bombay. It's under the protection of the authorities, but since nobody knows who the child is, a few months or 1 year after that, the child is given for adoption, and he or she will be leaving the country or staying in India, but without the knowledge of the parents. This can be done with DNA, and this is our role and what we do.
Yeah, that's wonderful, really. And I'm really encouraged and motivated actually to roll out these type of experiments in country like any Asian country or any country around the globe. And I think no country can claim that this problem does not exist in their country. And friends, you will surprise that in every 8 minutes, any one of us is being trafficked. So the quantum is so high, and people trafficked are in large in number. Sometimes we do not acknowledge this problem, but problem exists everywhere. So we have to be very very cautious and careful. Professor Jose, I am also interested to know, although you, as I told with the records which I could find about your credentials, that more than 4,000 persons, particularly children, you have been able to connect with their parents. So, can you just give one or more examples, some exciting anecdotes where you felt the most sensitized when you bring child to their family. So some kind of you know some case or some experience of that sort, please.
Yeah, yeah. I've been able to witness a number of cases. Keep in mind that the way we work is that we, from the University of Granada and from the DNA-Prokids Foundation, what we do is we help and support different countries, usually governments, okay, through the governments, either usually it's the police, but could be any other Department of Justice or whoever. So we teach and train and give all what they need in a given country to create their or its own and unique DNA per kids database. For instance, I was mentioning Peru. I can mention Guatemala, for instance. We give them everything, but they work by themselves. Whenever they need assistance or training or advice, they contact us. I mean, that's very important. I want to mean that the DNA per kids databases are unique and exclusive of each country. It's not that we do everything from here, from Spain, from Granada, from the University of Granada, where I am. Okay, we help them. So it means that in the practice, whenever a child is identified, it's a child could be identified right now in Peru, for instance, or in Guatemala, and the child is being sent back to their family. Uh, I am not in all cases there, but I've been told many times that when I visit the countries where a child was identified, I've been able to have I had the opportunity to meet the parents of the child, and that's an unique and beautiful, wonderful feeling that you have whenever they basically thank you for being able to use and to teach the technology for the people to identify and bring their child back. Sometimes, most of the cases are children that are being exploited, depending on the ages. Sometimes are children that are were going to be given for adoption. The child was stolen, let's say, in the northern part of Mexico. Let's move to another country. The child is stolen. Mexico is kind of big country, okay? In the northern part, close to the border with the USA. And then the child is taken to the city of Mexico. It's a huge 20 million people city, capital of Mexico. It's a, let's say, a 1 year old baby girl. No, she can barely speak. She cannot explain who she is. She cannot tell us or tell the police in Mexico City where she from, the name of the family. No, she barely speaks. So the girl is taken under the custody of the authorities. She's taken to an orphanage. She's taken to a house, a foster house, where they take care of her, of course. She's under care. But since nobody knows who she is, one of the first things that they try to do with very young children is look for a family for them, because any child has the right to grow up in a family and not in, you know, in places where there is no real family. Uh, and then the child is going to be given for adoption. Then suddenly the parents go under the DNA-Prokids system, and the DNA is compared to that child that was going to be given for adoption, let's say next week, and there is a match. Then of course the adoption is stopped, and the child is taken back to the family. So I've seen these kind of cases, and it's beautiful because it's a way to show that the technology that we are using, if we use that properly, if we use that according, of course, to the legislation, to the laws, and to the bylaws, it's helpful and can help to solve this kind of, because this is a crime, and a stolen child is a crime, uh, and also to prevent, because we have to keep in mind that what do the people that are selling illegally children under the mask of adoptions, what is the weakness that they use? What they do is that they know that if we don't use DNA, they just fake the documents, and a child is given for adoption under any name. Is given for adoption uh, as the son or the daughter of a woman who signs and states that she's the mother and she wants to give the child for adoption. But if we use DNA, we can prove if the child is the son or the daughter of a particular woman, first of all. And of course, we can show that the child is not being looking or under search for the family. So this is again a way to prevent and not only to solve the cases. I always say it should be mandatory anywhere in the world, in every single country in our planet. It should be mandatory that when a child is given for adoption, a baby boy, a baby girl, given for adoption, we have to make 100% sure, we have to be able to prove that either she or he is being given for adoption by his or her biological parents because they want to do that by whatever the reason which is admitted by the law in the country. Sometimes because they have many other children and they have no money, or by whatever the reason. But they want to do that and they are the biological parents. So they have, according to the law, the right to give the child for adoption and not for money, not selling the child, not no business, just because they have the right to do that. If we don't, if we cannot prove that, if a child is going to be given for adoption because it was found abandoned anywhere or under exploitation, what we have to prove before the child is given and to another family is that the child is not being looked for his or her family, that the biological family, their parents are not looking him or her, because otherwise we can. And now I mean there are many situations in many countries where they have a lot of problems because they know that a lot of children were stolen and were given for adoption, and they are now in another country, and they've been there for already for many years, and the biological parents, the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents want to know about the child, but the child was taken from Guatemala to the US, for instance. There are thousands of cases in this particular situation. This could have been stopped already many years ago if we had the possibility, we had the possibility of use DNA, and we have to stop that now because otherwise crime will continue.
So, very rightly, you mentioned the power of DNA, how DNA can connect the missing children correctly with their parents. And secondly, you have very rightly mentioned about the adoption issues. And I think everywhere across the globe, this adoption may be having hidden agenda to take the child for different purpose, be it for sexual exploitation and many such you can say the misuse of their power over the child or the person who has been adopted. So, having said that, my dear friends, I think let us just conclude in the sense that as a police officer, what I observe in the field that the children are being trafficked or being stolen or being found missing from one place and they may be carried out or they may be transported to another place. So it is very difficult after a certain point of time. The children may not remember their address, their identity. So DNA is a powerful tool for human identification. And at any stage, it give you a kind of faith, the certainty that the child to whom it is being claimed that the person is X or Y, then DNA certify that yes, this is the child who was missed or was stolen or was trafficked and ultimately get connected with the right parent. So DNA is a very, very powerful tool. It is a tool for identification of human being or any other species for that matter. Having said that, before we enter to next issues, I would like to give a brief description how I was connected with Professor Jose. So it was year 2018 precisely when my son Siddharth went to Grenada under the mentorship of Professor Jose. He was there for about 2 months as a intern, and he learned more about DNA, Prokid, and various other disease-related learnings he had. And he still fondly remember. And later, my daughter also went to the same place. So we had occasion to get the hospitality of Professor Jose. And my dear friends, Grenada, of course, Spain altogether is a very beautiful city, but the University of Grenada, and you will surprised to note that that university was established as old as year 1531, and I repeat, year 1531. So it's one of the oldest university, and Professor Jose has taken me to the various part of university, and it's a fascinating. I am very, fond of education. I have traveled various part of the globe, but that university still lies in my one of the very fond memory, and the hospitality of Professor Jose was outstanding. Having said that, let me just come to another query, Professor Jose, that Asian countries also considered to be the origin of traffickers, yeah, the persons in trafficking, and there are certain routes also, and I think Asia also has a vast difficulties. Our neighborhood, like country like Nepal, Bangladesh, they are also suffering in large number of child trafficking, trafficking in person. Of course, I am not saying that India does not have this problem. Of course, we have, but this is a global problem. I don't see it is only localized. But how DNA Prokit can be a tool? So give this kind of a charter or the route how DNA Prokit can be roll out country like India or other countries, so that this menace can be handled, whether a person was originated or was born at X country and may be found in Y country. So how this can be a global tool for connecting missing children, missing persons, or trafficked persons?
Yeah, this is an interesting question,
Thank you.
Dr. Goswami. It's an interesting and important question, because child children trafficking, it can occur inside a given country, uh, India, for instance, but it's also occurs or it happens in with neighboring countries. In India, you can find, of course, children from Pakistan, from Nepal. You were mentioning them in Pakistan, from Bangladesh, even for other parts, even from Sri Lanka, even from other places. And you can also find children from India that, by whatever the reason, they were stolen, and they could be now in any of those countries, or even in countries where they are under any kind of exploitation, in places where there is a lot of tourism, like let's say Thailand, let's say Indonesia, all these places. And so it's a, as you said, international and global problem. We cannot. We have to get started by our own country, of course, but we cannot focus only in our own country. What it means? It means that, of course, DNA has the ability to identify the children and return them to their families, or find a match, and we can know who they are. But also, according to the DNA, we can know about the ethnical and geographical origin of given person. And then we could find a child in the southern parts of India, for instance, and we can say that his or her DNA is most likely from the northern part. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she's from the northern part of India, from Assam, but it is more frequent, this kind of DNA in the northern parts of India rather than in the south. So this is very important because it gives hints and clues to the police to know about the routes that are used by traffickers. If we, by whatever the reason, find out that most of the children that are identified in, let's say, let's say Kolkata, for instance, are coming from Nepal, this means something. This means that there are criminal networks that can easily move children from Nepal or from Bangladesh or from wherever to that particular city. And so you're not only solving the problem, you're not only being able to prevent the problem, you're giving very important information to the police to track and identify and end with these criminal networks. Because these criminal networks move people, children who are trafficked, of course, move people who are people smuggling, that are moving from one country to the other one, and also are related to, and something that you mentioned before, for instance, to organ trafficking. We are also working using DNA to identify organs and try to find about the origin of the organ. And all this is related. So with the DNA, we can have a lot of information that it is important. It's not the unique, it's not the only clue, it's not, but it's a very relevant information that could be used by the police and by the criminal justice system to identify and to punish the people who really committed the crime.
So thank you very much, Professor Jose, for this very enlightening discussion and your experience you shared with us. So at the last, just give a kind of message how people at large, common men, can help to control or to face or to give some solution to these type of problems of child trafficking. A message to the public.
Yeah, well, I, there are a number of things or messages that I would like to give. First of all, is to everyone, but especially to the younger people, that they really have to be committed and they really have to believe and trust that with the use of science, according to the laws, of course, according to the legislation, but we have to push our legislators to pass the laws that can allow the use of the technologies to solve and prevent crimes. So to the younger people, make sure that you really pursue that you really are convinced of that, and make sure that you can make a better world in the future using your knowledge, using your skills, using your intelligence, using your sensibility, but also using the technology. The technology is constantly under development. It's not that we have the solution for everything right now. I am sure that 10 years from now, we will get together and there will be new things around the area of any criminal area, any area, of course, in genetics, but in fingerprints and everything. First one. Second one, it is also very important. I will be very very happy. It's one of the things that I wouldn't like to retire without having the possibility of being able to help India to develop all these kind of databases. It is very important. These are human databases. Whenever we are thinking about human trafficking, we have victims that are victims forever. If you if you walk around the railway station, whatever in your city, and someone hits you and take your cell phone, you're a victim of a crime, and you can have pain in your face for a few days, and of course you missed your cell phone. That's bad, but that's okay. You forget, you buy a new one whenever you can. That's all. If you're a victim of human trafficking, if you're a child and you're victim and you have been stolen, you you will be another person. You will be a victim forever. Your family will be a victim forever because they will keep you in mind forever. Because my little baby boy, my little baby girl has been stolen. Where is she now? What is she doing? Is she alive? Is she not alive? Does she have a good life or not? It's forever. So this is a heinous crime that cannot be, of course, not even permitted. Of course, it's not permitted, of course, but cannot. We have to do everything we can to stop and to deter that. So I will be very happy, Dr. Goswami, to come to India, come back to India, been a number of times there, but come back and work along to show what we are doing in other countries in the cases of children trafficking, in the cases of human trafficking in general, in organ trafficking, and to convince step by step, to convince the people and the authorities and the parliament and everyone who needs to be convinced that this is a technology that properly used, it can generate only benefits. Of course, you can do bad things with the technology, but this is not the case. This is not the case of forensics. In forensics, we use that to solve cases, to help the justice, and to make a better country and a better world. I'm sure we will be able to do that.
Yeah, so thank you very much. And really, it is my dream to invite you, to welcome you to our country, particularly to my institute. And the government of Uttar Pradesh has established this institute named Uttar Pradesh State Institute of Forensic Science in Lucknow. And Lucknow is a city known for Nawabs and for the respect, for the to welcome people with very large heart. And yes, your vast experience will be helping us. So I believe that very soon we will be conducting a conference, a workshop for child trafficking, and you will be our esteemed guest for that. So having said that, thank you very much once again, Professor Jose, for your vast experience sharing with us, and be in touch. And I believe that one day, in collaboration with all of us, the entire globe, we will eliminate this menace of child trafficking. Thank you very much and have a nice time. Bye. Take care.
Thank you very much, and best wishes from Granada, from Spain to all India. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much. See you.